My name is Pete Miragliotta. I've been a member of the board here at the Center for Hope and Safety since 2018. I joined the board because I wanted to do something to honor the memory of our daughter, Michele, who was murdered in 2016 by her husband, Scott. Scott then killed himself. They had 3 children at the time of their mutual deaths, and those 3 children came to live with us the very night that this all happened, and my wife Jackie and I have been raising them. That Michele and Scott's relationship was not what at least we thought of as sort of a classic domestic violence or domestic abuse situation. So in this relationship, Michele was really the strong one. She was anchoring the relationship. He was completely dependent upon her, and shared with me on more than one occasion that he was scared to death that she would ever leave him because he didn't know what would become of him if he would become homeless or whatever without her. She was holding down a full-time job. She was very involved with her church. She was pretty much raising the kids completely on her own, while Scott was pretty much staying home, spending his time on the internet, different chat rooms, looking at different treatments and so on for depression. He got to the point where he really believed he could manage his medications better than the doctors would, and that would lead to episodes where his depression got worse. He became jealous of Michele. He thought she was having affairs, including with the teacher where she worked, but there was never any physical violence between Scott and Michele. Things that we learned about afterward were there were times when he would yell at her, even in front of the kids. There were times when he would do damage to things in the house out of frustration. There was a time about a year and a half or so before Scott actually murdered Michele that she decided that she and the kids needed to get out of the house. The problem was that Scott's behavior had become, in Michele's opinion, disruptive to the kids and to the household. He was supposed to be staying at his parents' house. They lived right next door to Scott and Michele, and they had an agreement that he would actually stay with his parents until he could get more treatment and improve, because Michele viewed his behavior within the house as being really disruptive and disturbing to the kids. But the problem was he didn't comply with the agreement that they had that he would stay next door, and they actually ended up coming to our house and moving in with us for a period of about 3.5 months or so. During that period, one of the things that Michele thought she should do, and she was getting some advice from a friend who was a corporate attorney, that she should possibly consider getting a temporary restraining order. So she got the paperwork for that, and she actually presented herself, or went to Hackensack to the courthouse to actually complete the process of applying for a temporary restraining order. But when she got there, she couldn't bring herself to actually follow through with it. She was very concerned that if she got a temporary restraining order against Scott, it would somehow cause him to have a criminal record, and that might show up on background checks and things like that. So she pulled back from that. And while she was staying with us, due to her beliefs based on her understanding of Christian teaching and what she would read in the Bible, that as Scott's wife, she really didn't have the right not to be supporting him more. So she announced to me one morning as we were getting coffee that she was moving back into the house that very day. And I was very blunt with Michele, and I told her there are a lot of women who think it's not appropriate for them to leave their spouse or their significant other, and they end up dead. I said it at the time because I thought I really needed to try to get her attention, but it didn't discourage her from her opinion that she needed to move back with Scott, and sure enough that day, she and the kids moved back in to their regular house. Following that, and for about the next year and a half, until Michele was actually murdered by Scott, from our perspective, things seemed to be pretty normal. We didn't really hear anything. Michele didn't say anything to us about there being any particular problems. But as we found out later, Scott had been behaving erratically. We learned that day that he broke into his parents' house to get his gun. His gun was supposed to be kept in safekeeping by his father, but Scott knew where it was. And while his parents were out, he broke into their house, he took the gun, he put it in his car, and prior to actually committing the act, Michele was making dinner. He said he was going to go out, that he had some work to do on his car, and it turned out he came back into the house with the gun, and that's when he committed the act.
Hi, my name is Catherine Miller, and I'm the head of the legal department here at Center for Hope and Safety. One of the services that we offer are pre-temporary restraining order services. This is when a client, like Michele, could speak to a trauma-informed, trained family law attorney. They can give the client their legal options, such as obtaining a criminal order or obtaining a temporary restraining order, or neither, and pursuing other legal remedies like filing for custody or divorce. This can help a client feel very empowered and know all of the options that they might have before going to the court. We help the client's safety plan in multiple ways. This could help be things like gathering evidence, gathering documents, birth certificates, marriage certificates, or anything else that might help them in any legal case they might have during the future. We also connect them to our community services department, which might even help them do something like flee to our safe house. We do something called a danger assessment. A danger assessment helps determine the level of danger that an abused person has of actually being killed by their intimate partner. This allows the client to know what kind of danger they are, and the more informed a client is, the more options they have.